Hey guys, welcome back. This is BitsBeTrippin here. You're with your host Carter. We are at Miners Disrupt in Miami, and I'm excited to be here. It's been 2 years since I've been here last, so we're here with Digital Shovel today. I'm gonna let yourself introduce yourself and go through what you guys are doing here and some of the products. We're gonna go through some of the products you guys have offered here, and let's get right into it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm Scott from Digital Shovel. We're a manufacturer of everything Bitcoin infrastructure with the exception of the miners. So we do turnkey data centers from small as 100 kilowatts up to 100 megawatts. And completely vertically integrated, all the metal fabrication done in-house, PCBs, software, everything inside our shop in Toronto.
Awesome. So to give people an understanding of what we're looking at behind us, the mining container, if you have Bitcoin ASICs and a range of ASICs, right? We're talking S19s, we're talking the M50s, WhatsMiner, Cannons. If somebody was to order a Digital Shovel, I mean, what's the ordering kind of process? This, we see a couple different products here. There's a couple different sizes, 20 foot, 30 foot, smaller containers. What would be the process? If they have a small mining shed, how would they interact with you? What would be kind of the ordering options and stuff like that?
So first we got some simple pre-qualifying questions. The biggest one is what their power is, so what voltage they have for their electricity, how much capacity they have, and then from there we're going to decide whether or not, or what size of product they're going to go with. You'd mentioned early 20 and 30 foots. It's actually all the same unit. So the same unit you see back here, these are all modular building blocks. So they can just be bolted together in the field and go up to 3 megawatts, and they're about 60 feet long at that point. And it we used to do shipping containers before. We moved away from them just because originally we didn't have an option because we couldn't build our own containers. But now, instead of being constrained by working around the shipping container, we can build our own pod for exactly what we want to the exact size. This seems like a random size, but it's actually built like this so I can fit it into a shipping container. So we send some of these to Africa. This will actually fit through the door of a 40-foot shipping container with a half an inch to spare on each side. Nice.
And so when you're talking about the power, and we deal with this a lot with helping various folks get, if they have 208, if they have 415, 240, and even the 277s now, it's kind of emerging right now in the larger kind of applications. What's a common setup like this, 208, and how many miners would be put in, let's say this unit here?
Yeah, so this unit here, all of our industrial level stuff is 415 Y240. So this unit will hold 88 S19s, and you can put up to 10 of those in a single string with a single switch gear. The other unit that we're just unveiling here at the show, that's meant for a more, call it consumer grade client, so guys from between 10 to 28 miners. It'll run on single phase power. You can run 220, you can run 208, you can run 277, but you've got to change the motors out in the fans, and technically the certifications are not there for the 415, so you'd have to go through a kind of a field evaluation process in order to use it on 277.
Awesome. I want to kind of focus on this newer product that you have here, because I mean, especially with the viewers from our channel, which are the home miner. This is where we came from, GPU mining. And that may have 10, 12, 15 units, and they'll build a unit they'll go to Lowe's and buy a shed and cut out some stuff, and hobbyist miner, I'm talking to you, my dude.
That's what I started as.
Yeah, right.
That's how I started the company.
Right. We started this, right? So, moving to something that's a little more industrial with this, with that many units, 208 single phase kind of setup. What's a basic cost would this be for somebody?
So the show special is 15 grand, all in, ready to go. You just hook it to your main panel. That's got UL inspection on the whole thing, and one of the really cool things I was talking about before the interview is it has heat vectoring on it. So it's got 6 fans. You only really need 3 to cool the pod, but it's designed so you could take a duct or 2 ducts, come off of those blower fans and hook them into a building, or exhaust them outside and put this thing inside, and then when the room comes up to temperature, the other fans kick in and start putting the heat into another zone for you, because that's I mean, I don't know about you, but I used to heat my part of my house in the
Oh
winter
yeah,
with the miners.
absolutely. It's one of the biggest things you still use
But then
them
you
for.
get to that point, it'd be too hot at one point, and you
Correct.
had no flexibility, whereas this will do that
You
automatically.
can vent it, yeah. So I mean, it's good that you bring that up because I was immediately thinking of the application, and especially if you're trying to get the missus to agree. The fact of putting one of these things in your backyard is that you can reuse that recirculation of heat to heat your house, and you're already paying for the power when it comes to heating your house, anyways, or the conversion to gas. But yeah, that's an interesting setup. So from like the complexity, so like I know a lot of calls that we'll get or questions is like, I want to get into it, I want to expand. Normal electrician that could set this up like this
100%.
Gets shipped in single phase. I mean, there's nothing that's too over the ordinary here, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and you guys,
it will run on 3-phase as well. It's just a matter of converting the way the busway is, and there's a manual to do it. An electrician can do that in the field, but it's designed to run on single phase, which it's unfortunate. A lot of guys will buy this, the bigger pod, and they'll only run just one phase of it. So the 2/3 of the pod will be empty, but they just wanted something that was turnkey. And I was kind of getting tired of, my friends would be like, hey, I want to get into mining. And I'm like, sorry, can't help you. This is too big of a solution for you.
Yeah.
This will fit through a 7-foot high door. It also ships in pieces too, so you don't even need a forklift to move it. Like all the panels will bolt together, and then there's a sealing kit that you can do in the field.
Nice.
So you can literally ship it on an LTL truck and then take it off in pieces without a forklift to assemble it.
Nice. And so like one of the big things with any mining operation is keeping things clean and filtered and all that. So like for the filter solution, we're dealing this right now with our own 5 megawatt setup where we're dealing with different rolls, larger rolls of filters. This is a standard filter setup. Like how's the filter
24
replacement?
24 by 24 by 4 inch deep. It's a pleated filter, which we like more than a rolls because that pleat gives you more surface area. Which we love the awnings because they give the big overhang. I get 60% more surface area than just going vertical by having that overhang. We unfortunately don't have the room to do that in that pod, but you still have 6 24 by 24 inch filters, and we didn't have it ready for the show because this was a prototype. We're actually making it so there'll be 3 more vents on the door, so the door will have another layer of filtration on there as well.
And the extra, from an intake standpoint, right? The door would be the intake side, and so are those there. So the ventilation piece is on the other side of this one.
Yeah, it's on the back side.
On the back side, okay, yeah. So because you have an intake, and then from like a hot cold lane, and we'll walk you guys through some B-roll of kind of walking through the container and having a discussion with it. So the part of this is just us talking, and then we'll pick the camera up and walk through some of the areas and explain it. But that really concept of that hot lane, cold lane to like separate the heat, especially for folks that are sitting in very hot areas right now, being able to trap any kind of heat and then exhaust it. Kind of setup. Is there any special design with this or anything related to that, or is it just standard hot cold lane?
It's standard hot cold lane. They are changeable per shelf because not all miners, like especially home miners, you might have a hodgepodge of different brands.
Correct.
So each back sheet can come out on a per shelf basis. You just take the miners out, swap that piece out.
Okay.
Because we have a full metal fabrication shop, we do that all with galvanized steel. The units are very safe inherently, but I still I don't like to have anything in there that can burn. So everything's metal. There's no woods or plastics in there whatsoever, and the back sheet is also made out of galvanized steel as well. And then in behind that, in addition to the ventilation to go out, you get the opposite sometimes when it gets really cold. We actually there's a little squirrel cage fan on the bottom, and the bottom shelf is actually a duct that'll pump hot air back to the other side.
Okay.
So in the winter when it gets too cold for your miners, it's actually recycling something.
You do have that was great. You led me right into like some recirculation because that is a thing, like especially in colder northern climates, like you'd almost freeze out the miners, right? Like if they get too cold. And so
the miner can actually handle it.
Yeah.
It's the software starts tripping out, and the problem you run into is if your miners were off and it gets really cold and then you turn them on and part of the chip rapidly heats up and the other part doesn't, it'll crack some of the solder paste on it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we run it, but if the farm is running the whole time and it gets really cold, it doesn't really hurt the miner that bad to drop down, but it'll throw a temp error on some of them and cause the miner to crash.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've been really looking at is like especially with like a split farm. So on the back side, like if you're doing maintenance, like we just did right before we came out, we had to pull some miners, we had to close off, those hot lanes. So are there plugs and things for that? Like if you're pulling a miner?
There's a blank sheet that can go in there. In this particular unit, the vacuum is so strong on it that you might get a little bit of backflow, but not a whole lot.
But so you're not getting
on these ones you will though.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
and we'll have like an insert that'll go into those to block those off.
Yeah, we see that a lot with like the N5, like the bit mains, like that don't have any power assist on the fans, and immediately it's just pushing right back in, right? So you got to block that otherwise. And then like you were talking about the different backplanes that you have for there. So is there? You said fully customizable, but like ideal, like you'd have one row one way and then another row another way, and that's kind of the normal setup. So you have some people that have a range of things and the different settings. And I mean, most of the industry miners I've seen, and we see a couple new ones here. We see the Intel one that Epic's going to show off, and then there's a couple other miners here are going with the Bitmain.
The form factor is very similar, which is nice. I mean, we got owned on our first containers because I built around the S9s, and then all of a sudden the S11s come out, and it's like, what the hell is this double tube thing? And I had it built that our racks would only work with that, and it was a bit of a pain in the ass to change stuff. But.
Well, and we've talked to a couple different groups that were looking into getting building stuff, and they were asking like the top important things. I'm like, keep the form factor. Like, there's no reason.
Well, what's miners messing with that again?
Yeah.
I mean, with their new units, they've been playing with the form factor a little bit. I mean, it would be nice if everybody just kept to a standard kind of U-shelf style configuration, but without Bitmain doing it, I don't think there's going to be as much adoption.
Yeah, it's because it does complicate things, especially if you're trying to keep that vac seal, kind of set up and done. But like, so I'm super interested in this one. We're definitely going to take a walk through it and see what would be like a typical, like, do you recommend just putting it right on the ground? I mean, putting it on like above the ground, anything like that?
Leave it on the ground's fine. Yeah,
awesome.
Throw it on grass. Doesn't need. It's fully self-supported. You can pick it up with a forklift if you have one, but doesn't. It should be relatively level, but even if it's not going to hurt the unit. These ones are a little more fussy when you're joining them together, but solo you can
because of the bus bar setup that you have.
Well, the bus bar and then the sealing kit that joins them, because you got to keep them watertight all the way through, right?
Correct. Yeah, that was going to be the next question on the just. Obviously, you built it. This is a prototype, all weather. Like, is there any climates that you wouldn't recommend? Like, is there folks like that's setting in, West Texas in the blazing heat?
We run these in West Texas. This has more ventilation per miner than these units do.
Okay.
And we have over 200 megawatts in West Texas.
Okay, and so like from let's talk quickly of the power setup. So obviously the power spec standard a little different from like Bitmain with the C11s, and you got the C19s with like Whatsminer or Cannons. So on the PDU setup that you have here, what's the kind of config? Is there a conversion kit, or do you order it specific to the miners?
So we don't include the cable because it differs based on the miner. So it's a standard C19 outlet on them.
Okay.
That's one thing I didn't touch on. It's fully smart. So every outlet has a CT, a current transformer, to monitor how much wattage it's consuming. Okay. As well as you've got a relay so you can turn them on and off. And then you can program watchdogs as well. So like say you get an S19, the data center will figure out which miners are on which ports automatically. It'll find out if you use DHCP, it'll figure out which IP was on which port and label the IP to the port. So if you go into the PDU, you know exactly which miner it is.
Okay.
And then you can program, hey, if it drops below 2,700 watts for more than 6 minutes, unplug it for 2 minutes and plug it back in. If that doesn't work 5 times, then send me an email and let me know. Because a lot of the time when a hash board goes down, you just have to unplug it, plug it back in. It comes back in. The data center does it automatically. Yeah, so for the audience, we're going to make sure that we hit on that point, because that's a key differentiator here, is like with most of your mining software, if you're using like Foreman or Awesome Miner, you're really controlling it really at the controller board standpoint, where this you're controlling at the PDU, so that you can get that hard reset if you need to. Frankly, if you can do it on on Foreman with the software, do it there first. But this is an extra step.
Because anytime you're blipping power, right? I mean, you don't want to jog that kind of issue. And so, from that management software. And most of that stuff's controlled, like if you're doing curtailments and stuff, you'd have just pausing the mining versus like killing the port, right? For that particular thing. But like, that's all I'm assuming like IP driven, like you're connected into it, has its own management interface.
Correct. Yeah. So it's actually housed in the pod. So it's not like a cloud-based solution. There's no license fee for that. And the pod actually has a Wi-Fi hotspot built into the PDU. So when you're first doing your configuration, if your network's not up and running, you can just hotspot into the pod without even having to plug your laptop in. Because a lot of new like my laptop here doesn't have an Ethernet cable. It's a pain in the ass sometimes when you want to hop onto something quickly. You can hotspot in through the PDU and then connect to the network. You can disable that as well, but it has that added functionality.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty common thing, especially with like if you're hooking up cameras or wherever else, you're going to have like a Wi-Fi hotspot. Maybe you're not sharing the SSD or your SSID, or maybe turn it off when you leave. But is there any other like security features with this? Is it just door lock? Is there?
So it actually has. This one doesn't have it because that's actually not the door that's going to come on it. This is a prototype. The actual door will have an extra level of vents, and then it has a door lock that goes on it that has a conventional key lock on it, but then it has biometrics as well, so you can use fingers or a keypad, similar to what this one has on it right now.
Okay, and is there any camera mounts or anything like that?
Yeah, there's an option for, I guess you can't see them on the camera, but
we'll take some footage.
There's an option to have both an indoor and outdoor camera on it.
Okay, and then that would be managed on that current software setup you have there, or you just use like Ubiquiti or something?
We use Real-Link for our cameras.
Okay,
and there's a standard management software that they offer with that.
So there's a lot of folks that like the Ubiquiti setups, put the different Ubiquiti switches. So like for the networking, like what turnkey, you get this solution at the house. What comes in it other than the power setup in there? Is there network switches? Is it fully loaded to ready to turnkey? You put machines in there once you get the power hooked up, or is there
machines and cables is all you really need? So it comes with network switches.
Okay.
Ubiquiti is lovely, but they're expensive. So it comes with Cisco Catalyst switches. They're refurbished units. They're a tank of a switch, but you can still do layer 3 configuration, VLANs, and stuff like that with them. Okay. And that comes with the pod.
Oh, it comes with the pod. All right. Yeah. So kind of a smart switch at the end of it. It's not just a
simple layer 2 TP link or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's
and it's a very robust, durable switch. Whereas like we've had less than 0.5% failure.
Yeah,
but it's still covered. The unit has a 3-year warranty on everything except for the fans.
You're right on, man. I don't even get to these. Like, it's natural. You've done a few of these. The next one was going to be warranty, and like, who do they call? What's the turnaround time on that? Like, if somebody has any kind of issues or questions, I'm assuming you guys are available, Telegram or any of those kind of mediums?
We do it through a support desk, to be frank. I'd love to do it on Telegram, but we've got 900 containers in the field. Yeah. And what happens, you do it in Telegram, it's like you get a chat and then like you miss a message and they're ignoring me, where at least we do it through Zendesk, so I've got a ticket system.
Perfect.
But parts and warranty stuff is all done through us, and that's in Toronto. We stock everything. We're not a just-in-time type manufacturer. We do everything in-house. I have 30,000 breakers on the floor right now, and I think 700 or 800 fans. So like when a part goes, we have it there in stock. If it's something that's old and super legacy, like on some of our 5-year-old containers, that stuff might be a little bit longer, but all of our current models from the last 3 years, we keep it all in stock in Toronto.
That's awesome. And this is the normal paint schema. Do you, like, if you have a custom requirement, like if somebody comes in and says, hey, we want to put our logos or something like that, or a different paint schema, can they?
That's the one thing that keeps us keeps us recognized, is keeping our brand up.
Keeping your brand out there.
It's blue and white,
blue and white. Yeah.
Like guys at my office, girls at my office, they all know everything's got to be blue and white. If we buy it, is it available in blue and white? We're gonna buy it.
But somebody, so
you can always repaint it if you want.
There's always a call to your local wrap guy too, to put the wrap on it if you want to put some kind of logos at.
And we have clients that do that.
Yeah, just to kind of put the brand awareness on there.
And there's two sides to that too. There's one of me wanting to do branding, and there's others that like our price point's very competitive. If I have customers come to us all the time to say, man, I tried to build this. I don't know how you're building it for this price. I can't even buy the materials. The reason we do that is because I buy a whole lot of one thing. It's like whether it's a 300 kilowatt client or 100 megawatt, he's buying a whole bunch of these. So I get the better economies of scale. If I was doing different paint colors, now I need to do different paint runs, and that drives up the cost, and I got to pass that on to the customer.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I mean, it's, there is a lot of options, but you can take some of that. I mean, like paint, you can take off. You don't have to have somebody do that. So, no, that's great. What's the current lead time? So I know that's going to be the next question. Like somebody goes and places an order, they do it on the website. I mean, how do they, they hit your website and they just order it? I mean, what do you recommend?
We like to have a call with them first. Yep. We like to also have a call with their electrician, because I can't tell you how, over the first 3 years I was in business, how many containers I sold that never got hooked up. Because guys would be like, I got money, I got miners, I got a field and bought a container. They get there and then they find out it's going to be 3 years before they can get electricity.
Yeah.
So we'd like to make sure they go through the process. They still need somebody to do that, but we at least talk to their person so they don't get there and then the electrician's like, this is not possible to hook up. Once we go through that pre-qualifying, then they order it. The lead time right now is relatively quick. Like, it goes up and down. If you talked to me last year, it was like 8 months or something because we had 600 containers on order. You can get these in about 2 to 3 weeks. Same with those units right now.
Awesome.
And we have them on the floor. Most of it's just doing the final configuration, packaging, and getting ready. You can't, like, it's not an Amazon package that I can throw on a conveyor and
For sure.
send out the door.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like, and you ship worldwide, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we ship out of
As much as you
Canada.
can,
No tariffs going into the U.S. We've got a logistics team that helps coordinate that process. It's just like shipping from the U.S. I mean, there's a $100 brokerage fee when it comes over the border, but we coordinate trucking and everything as well.
Awesome. Well, we've covered a lot. I want to make sure that if there wasn't something we didn't cover, if you can think of anything that we haven't, I mean, we covered quite a bit of the scale, no questions.
Well, the only the one piece further behind me is, so that is a stripped down version of this. That's for indoor clients. So if you got a warehouse or a building you're retrofitting, a lot of our clients didn't want a container, but they liked the ease of the electrical system, so they would actually buy these and put them in a building just because it was easy to deploy electrically. So that's basically a stripped down version. It's the exact same pieces that make up this unit, but it just takes off the ventilation component, and it's just a modular racking system with the PDUs and everything as well.
Oh, that's excellent. And so we didn't talk pricing difference, so what's a normal, like, one of these sizes versus that, like it's like one rel of that, as it were?
So this unit, as you see it, is around 28 grand. That's retail for one off. Like, it's substantially cheaper if somebody's buying a lot. This also comes in a bolt together version, so it's the same pod, just like IKEA, and it comes to you in pieces and you bolt it together. The difference is, I don't need to have it in my assembly hall, so the cost, you're saving almost $8,000 on the unit. But you could also put 11 of these in a tractor trailer. I can only put 4 of them on a tractor trailer fully assembled, which, I mean, when we ship to West Texas, you're $6-7 grand per truck. And if you got 20-30 trucks, you reduce that cost by 70%. It's substantial. Those units, depending on the options, you're about between 9 to 12 grand, depending on the configuration.
Per rail rock. And then what's a one of those store standpoint? Like, well,
same thing, 88 miners.
88 miners,
about 300 kilowatts.
Excellent. No, I think that,
Yes.
You can. Yeah, the question was, could we stack them?
So yes, you can. To be frank, for this unit, I haven't finished designing the modular staircase. We had an option; it was just really expensive. I try not to bring, even though I can make it, I try not to bring stuff to market unless I know it's a good value proposition. So the staircase is not designed for that. Those units are completely stackable, and there's an added-on kind of catwalk and railing that goes with it. They can go up 3 high.
Okay. Yeah, what's the tallest height of that one right now?
102 inches.
102 inches. Okay.
Sorry, actually 101 and a half. So that's exactly fits into a shipping container.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
it fits. It's very tight getting into a shipping container. Like
it's got to be level. Like getting in there.
100%. But you know what? It's like, that's what people, guys are like. Oh, this is such a random dimension. I'm like, no. Everything in there, if you look, like, there's no wasted inch anywhere. And that's the benefit of us being as vertically integrated as we are and having all the manufacturing capabilities. I can change and tweak stuff on the fly and build exactly to what I want.
But you got to make it, line up with the supply chain that's delivering it, right? Which would be the containers and other stuff like that. Well, we'll grab the camera. We'll take a look at a couple of other little pieces here. Change those. And these are changed from outside.
So this pops up. You take out these 2 fasteners, this pops up. This one comes out and the other 2 slide up.
Got it.
That was we were trying to get as much filter in there as possible, but I couldn't make them top mount. Like, it was a bit of a challenge to try to figure out how we were going to design that, but it worked.
And I see the lighting here.
Yeah, so you've got 2 LED strips. Again, this one was kind of rushed for the show, so the paint finish, I should highlight, would be a lot better than this.
And then you got your PDU setups here. And like what the total on this one was what again?
It's 28 S19s or 36 watts minus.
Okay.
So S19s you get a little less
14
power.
aside. And
actually you have more outlets than that, because it also controls the fans as well, the PDUs.
And then it's got, what, 6?
Yeah, 6 squirrel cages.
Yeah.
And although the axial fans, you'll get a little bit more airflow, those will deal with pushing the air through a duct a lot better. Whereas an axial fan would be so difficult to hook up a duct to because you need this this big custom piece of ductwork done, whereas this will fit a more standard duct size. When we built our first Mini-Pod, we had it inside the shop running, and man, did the shop get warm. And it was big. I mean, it's a lot bigger now. We got 85,000 square feet now, but it was 30,000 then, and it got so hot. I'm like, oh, we got to keep testing it.
And did you fill it all the way out, like 28 miners, and just go full?
No, we were running a 300 kilowatt unit, the first Mini-Pod.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Actually, it was GPUs the first time. You could still mine GPUs back then.
Yeah.
I guess you still can right now, but yeah, I don't even know what Ethereum Classic is making you now.
Stand right here because it gets a good perspective of human to size. You guys, you too, because you're tall. Like, yeah, you guys get to see like how tall it is, because I mean, when you start talking about people putting these in their backyard and they're like, wow, maybe it's too big, or like, but they can see that this is about the size of a small shed.
The footprint is exactly 2 standard skid spaces. So when you ship it on a truck LTL, there's no, if we went 1 more inch wide, then they're going to bill you for 4 skid spaces of the truck.
Yeah.
So everything's designed with kind of logistics in mind. Well, not just logistics, but it definitely comes in mind. The hoods all come off when it ships. After that, and then we have different configurations. Some will be like, it'll be a double. Others will be like the first busway might come through here, and then the next one will do a dog leg and do that, a crossover busway setup.
So if someone decides to expand later, when they initially
That's
buy.
one thing that we say to them when we're doing that initial conversation is, hey, if you're thinking of expanding, this is something you can't change in the field, and it's the busway. Yeah. So we'll have them do a double busway out the gate. Otherwise, you can just buy a single, which is the nice thing about this. So like for our oil field clients, where they've got like, let's say a 900 kilowatt generator, he's got 3 of these hooked up together, and then that genset fails, and he can only get 3 300s. You can actually just take the joint kit out and then feed each pod separately with your 3 300s and just change that in the field if you've planned ahead for that to have that kind of modularity. Which it's not a substantial, like you're talking, in the hundreds of dollars of difference. It's not substantial. So we usually recommend, unless somebody's like, I'm absolutely never going to change this. Yeah. Same goes with like, you're talking about supply chain and trying to get transformers.
Yeah.
Having the flexibility to go from a 2.5 or a 2.7 or 2.2 and not being like, well, my pod is 3 megawatts and that's all I can take and I can only get that transformer size. You either end up with excess transformer or excess pods. It's never a perfect balance. This lets you really fine tune it to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we talk to people, we really try to help navigate, what's the max power you can have, and then over by your miners. That way you're always rotating. You're like always keeping your machines fully up. Like, so if this pod holds 88, you want 88 running as much as possible. Buy 100 machines. You have 12 floaters, right? Yeah. So you're pulling one, you're popping one in, you're fixing it off to the side. You're never downtime. You max your power out, max out your unit, and that way you have full capability. Because otherwise you're just like, well, all my calculations were based on this 88 running at all time, but now I'm at like 82 because I have issues and downtime. But yeah, you want to maximize as much as possible your units. And like length from here to here, like what's the widest?
159 inches.
159 inches. Okay.
And the hoods do come off. Some clients, we used to take the hoods off when we shipped them in the containers. Now we just ship them as the flat packs, the bolt together unit. Yeah. There's no, unless they really don't want to deal with the assembly in the field, it makes so much more sense. Especially like just shipping costs. We have a bunch of clients in Africa, believe it or not, that are doing like little microgrid projects. Oh yeah. And the shipping is intense to get down there, and being able to bring that cost down and their labor is way cheaper than what I pay in Canada for doing the assembly. It takes about 3 hours for 2 people to put this together, and then that's with a forklift. This one can be done without a forklift, and it takes about 2.5, 3 hours for 2 guys to do this. Yeah,
that know it, and then if you have people who are reading the instructions, maybe it takes a couple more hours.
The first, especially like bigger farms, the first one takes a little bit longer, but after that they
once you know that kind of build.
We put together at the last show, we brought down 6 of these and then stacked 2 and attached the busway using unionized labor. They had the whole thing assembled in, I think it was 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And that was like one of our big 6-spot strings, and they've never seen it before, and we weren't allowed to touch a wrench. We had to give all the instructions to them. So.
Well, that's a good, honestly, it's a good test. It's like,
it really is.
Here's my instructions, and you kind of step back.
Yeah.
You can't help them.
It's especially trade show labor, which the guys are great if they're listening. Most of them are, but some of them will sit and argue with each other, and everybody's got an opinion of how to do it. And
that's reality, though. You know, you want that use case of reality of like, okay, I can see where they're having a problem. You get to see it in action.
It's not my guys in the factory that know it intimately.
And you're like, oh man, I need to,
brand new.
Because you can see it 100 times and think you guys got it, and then somebody runs into inevitably just interpretation are different sometimes. You know, and you're like, oh, maybe we need to re-clarify that. Yeah, we saw that with putting together our containers. It was that way. But yeah, this is great. Yeah, see that camera there?
Yeah, it's fully automated temperature sensors too. So you've got that little black probes at outside temperature. There's one on the hot side and one on the cold side as well.
You see a little probe up there.
And this guy has that as well. It's not installed on this prototype unit, and that all feeds into the same smart PDU software. Tomorrow when you're here, we're going to have 2 screens up with the demo of the software. It's super user friendly. We can walk you through that a bit as well.
That's excellent. Might have to get one, Todd.
Yeah.
Try it out. Deploy one.
I told you.